Well, glad that you guys are here this evening. We are in a series called Echoes, and I think it'll pop up here in a moment. There we go. And as we're walking through this, it's looking at a lot of Old Testament characters. It's looking at seeing God's faithfulness then, and that from that we should see that God is faithful to us today. He was with them then, he's with us now. And I want to just ask you this question. Would you be okay with your faithfulness impacting the world, even if it meant no one ever knew your name? Kind of a longer question, I'll read it again. Would you be okay with your faithfulness impacting the world, even if no one ever knew your name? Now, what's the right answer? What's the real answer? And that's tough for me. I want my credit. I want my due. I don't have to have all of it, but if I work some, I want to be acknowledged. But would we really be okay if through just our faithfulness, wherever God would call us, whether it be here, whether it be there, whether it be wherever, if through that faithfulness He would do something incredible that would radically transform the world, and yet no one ever knew your name? I think of a story of a guy named Walt. That's all that I know. His name is Walt. I don't know what his last name is, Walt. And Walt had a 6th grade education. There it is, all the way up to 6th grade. And he was living in the Northeast, rough neighborhood in Philadelphia, and he felt like he should serve in the church. And so he went and talked to his pastor and said, hey, I feel like I'm called to serve someplace. Where could I be of use? And so his pastor said, well, we've got this unruly group of middle school boys. There's 13 of them. Nobody else is brave enough to enter in there. They've run them all off. How about that? And he's like, all right. And so he showed up best as he could, ready to give a lesson. And the kids were just crazy, just off the wall. And he's like, okay, that's what we got going on. Like, let me find where these people live. They found out where they lived. They began to show up in the neighborhood, began to engage with them, just began to love on them. 6th grade education, Walt. It's interesting as he did that, 12 of the 13 of these guys, and from a lower end income, really rough neighborhood, 12 of the 13 went into full-time vocational ministry. They wanted nothing to do with the Lord, but 12 of the 13 did. And one of those 12, his name was Howard Hendricks. If you don't know who Howard Hendricks is, I can guarantee that if you've come to Grace Bible Church for any length of time, that he has had an impact on just about every single pastor who's here. At Dallas Theological Seminary, they call him the Prof. He's since passed. There's a building named after him. Trained over 13,000 pastors. He was the chaplain for the Dallas Cowboys for a while. He helped form leadership with the Navigators, Promise Keepers, when those were big movements coming out. He helped with that, authored several books. And you're like, well, he had an impact. He had a name. Yeah, that's right, but there would be no him without Walt. And he would lovingly tell the story about Walt over and over and over again. And as bright as what the Prof was, he led with his heart. When his wife was out of town, he would call up the seminary and say, hey, my wife's out of town. Is there a place I can sleep in the male dorm? I just want to go be with the guys. I just want to go be with them. They need to know that they're loved. Would you be okay? Would you really be okay with your faithfulness impacting the world, even if you were only known as Walt? Because in the end, the reality is this. Paul writes this in Corinthians. Neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything. Because the church, remember, they were all fighting. Oh, well, I'm with Paul. I'm with Apollos. It's like, dude, we're nothing. But God who causes the growth, that's the one. That's the one whose name needs to be remembered. And tonight we're going to be looking at a character in the Old Testament. I selected him because we don't know what his name is. So I don't have to try to pronounce his name unsuccessfully several times. This evening as well. And our big idea that's going to be driving our conversation is simply this, that faithful steps, not famous names, fuel God's work in and through us. Faithful steps, not famous names, fuels God's work in and through us. And we're going to be in Genesis chapter 24. Ironically or interestingly, it's the longest chapter in Genesis. And the whole thing is activity over this guy. We have no idea what his name is. So you can break up this into 3 places. Again, we're sponsored by P again this week. That's exciting. We're going to be looking at the people involved in the story. We're going to be looking at his position and how did he leverage that. And we're going to look at his praise in particular that flows out of this unnamed servant. I will tell you this, that the green part is going to take a little bit longer than the other 2. Even though the verses are shorter, it's because in this room we have a variety of knowledge of what goes on in the Old Testament, where we are in the story. And so it takes just a little bit of legwork, I think, to get us all on the same page. And so with that, when we're diving in here, this is where we are. When you think about the Old Testament, something that I have found very helpful is just to think way back in the beginning in the garden, God made everything, right? And he created humanity with a unique design and with a unique purpose to image him. No matter where we are, no matter what we do, we are to image him. It's his name that matters more than our name. And so then the scriptures, they basically track through different groups of people. So they're looking for it in Adam and Eve. Doesn't go so well, right? And then people outside of the garden, you follow just a few of those stories, doesn't go so well. You're looking for who are the characters who are imaging God. And then you come into this nation that he says, this nation is going to image me, this nation Israel, that's coming out of this guy named Abraham, who is in our story this evening. And so that is where we will be. I think the beautiful thing is our design and our purpose to image him continues on to today. Why are you here? Like literally, why are we here? To image God. That's where life and hope is found. It's the highest quality of life. It's where the greatest freedom is found. Not to make your name known, but to make his name known. And it's like, oh, that's just a churchy thing to say. I'm letting you know from my own life, and I've lived a lot now, which is crazy now to walk into rooms. Aaron and I were both talking about this. Like we walk into rooms like, when did we become the older people in the room? But I can tell you, both of us have lived long enough in the places of our lives that have been the greatest and the most joy-filled and the most exciting to live when we were all about his name and not our own. And the times that were the hardest was when we were about our names and not his, even if nobody else knew. So, diving in here, let's read chapter 24, verse 1. And so we're going to look at a lot of verses here, but just bear with me. We'll get through it all together, and it'll be great. Now, Abraham was old. Great. Abraham was old, and if that wasn't good enough, he's advanced in age, like the dude's old. Abraham is old, advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in every way. Right? And so if you don't know much about Abraham's life, God said, hey, come out of your land, come into this new land that I'm going to give you. And through that, we get the Abrahamic covenant back in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. God says this, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I'll show you. And I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. And then if you jump down a little bit further, and in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. And so Abraham had this call at 75, no kid of his own. He comes out, and he has to wait until he's 100 before he has the promised child. 25 years of waiting for a promise to be fulfilled. And at this point in time, he's older than that. And the land, he owns a little graveyard plot. That's what he owns of the land. And so with that, though, you see that Abraham has seen God's faithfulness. He has seen, like, you have given me a son. You have given me a whole bunch of cattle and of sheep. And there's some power, and there's influence, and there's victory, and there's protection. Like, he's seen God provide. He has been blessed in every way. The Abrahamic covenant, again, if you want to break it down into 3 words, land, seed, and blessing. The land, there's going to be physical land. This is going to be the land that your people, the nation that I'm building, this is theirs. And seed, you're going to have a great nation come out of you. But out of that, there's going to be one. And that one is going to be the mean of blessing for all. That's Jesus. Looking forward to that. And then blessing, that there's going to be protection and provision in this land, which is really crazy because you have to be fully dependent upon the Lord there. There's not a whole lot of natural irrigation in the land, and so it was important to have regular rainfalls. And so he's saying, when you come and you follow and you trust me, then you will see these blessings unfold. And this is a promise that God made. He's not actually putting any conditions on it. He's like, I'm the one who's holding this. And so Abraham has seen this lived out over his life. He's seen miraculous provisions in great ways because he's old. Well, speaking of old people, there's another old man in this. Although I think this is verse 2, I messed up on this. Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household, who was in charge of all that he owned. So he's getting ready to say something, but who's he speaking to? The servant, an old servant. That's what we know about him. We don't know what his name is. He's just the oldest. He's been around a lot. He's seen Abraham and God at work. And we know this about him as well. Not only is he old, and not only is he part of Abraham, like he's there for Abraham's service, but he was also in charge of all that he owned. And so you don't just kind of like get that job, right? There has to be this long-standing faithfulness, that you have been faithful when the small things have been tasked to you. And if you're faithful in this, then the owner, or in this place, Abraham goes, hey, you're faithful. Things are going great here. I'm going to give more. And then I'm going to give more. And eventually, as you've shown yourself faithful, Abraham's like, okay, you run things. I trust you. And that allowed this servant to have a back row or front row seat, actually, behind the scenes seat, to see, like, how is Abraham operating? What is going on here? So this is the guy that we're going to be focusing in on. You've seen somebody who has had long obedience in the same direction. Just, Abraham, your interest or my interest? Where you want me to go, that's where I'm going to go. So there's a mission going to be given to him then. So he says, please place your hand under my thigh, awkward, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I live, but you will go to my country and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Isaac. Okay, so moving quickly through here, this is a big deal. Like, this is a heavy-weighted moment when he's like, put your hand underneath my thigh. Okay, you're like, well, that's just weird and awkward. It is kind of weird and awkward for us. But back in the day, in the ancient Near East, people would swear oaths all the time, and they would want to swear them on the weightiest, heaviest, most reliable thing around. And the most reliable thing around was God's promise that he had made to Abraham. Through you, this nation is coming out. Through you, your descendants. And so you're swearing on this movement that's going to be made out of me, moving towards the world around me, all these descendants that are yet to come. It's like putting your hand on the Bible in the court. Do you promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And yes, there's supposed to be weight to this. And then the mission is this. Hey, go get a wife for Isaac. Like, this is the first dating app. It's not an app, it's the servant, right? Like, go get a wife for my son Isaac. But here's the qualification. You can't take her from the land that we're living in. Not there. Instead, you're going to go back to my relatives from where I came from, and you're going to look for her there, right? From my country, my relatives. And that can seem kind of strange, but just a few things. Again, ancient Near East, it's not unusual. Within your extended family, you're looking for protection. It's a violent world. You're looking for protection and power and influence in a region. And so family has to stay together. And you want that familiarity. That would be a normal thing to ask. The abnormal thing is go back, get the person, and have them come back to this land. That's just kind of a weird thing that's going on. And it's interesting, as you begin to think about this, pause here for a moment. If you were to jump back into the Abrahamic covenant, remember the very first thing that God says is, hey, Abraham, I want to build a nation out of you, but I need you to come out of the place where you're worshiping other gods, and I want you to come to a foreign land, and I want you to trust me, and I'm going to provide land, seed, and blessing for you. So Abraham says, hey, Sarah, this God, Yahweh, showed up, said this, and so we're going. And she says, okay, I will leave what's comfortable and normal for me, and I will go, right? And so their demonstration, their display of trust in the Lord is they left that. That's faith in action, right? And so as as he is now saying, Isaac, my son, because we're about building this nation that is dependent upon Yahweh, that is willing to leave everything. We're looking for that DNA to be instilled in things. And so Isaac, I want a wife who's basically a Sarah for him, right? He's not just looking for any old woman. He's looking for a woman of promise. And I think about Aaron. When I was studying through this, I just thought about Aaron. I thought we met on eHarmony. Online. I was living in Santiago, Chile. She was living here. And I remember I would get matched with these people all over the place. And they were amazing and neat women. And then I read Aaron's profile, and I'm like, this is a woman among girls. This is a woman who absolutely loves the Lord, loves people, wants to see the gospel go forth. I hadn't even spoken with her. I just read what she wrote, and I'm like, this is so different than anybody else. And I'm not just looking for a wife. I'm looking for a ministry partner that we can be yoked together, the one who's closest to me. I want her affections and her desires to line up with mine, because that's just wisdom. As a matter of fact, Abraham's kind of keying in on God's heart, because later on, God will warn his people, don't marry any of the locals because they have foreign gods, and those foreign gods will lead your hearts astray after the foreign gods. And so he says, go back to where you came from, find someone from that family who's going to make a clean break from the gods that are local there, coming into Canaan area. And as you come into Canaan, all the local gods are still foreign to that person. So there's really not as much temptation. What the world around is happening, it's like it's all new anyway, so be new with Yahweh. Find not just a wife, but find a woman of the promise. It's very focused. That's the most important thing for Abraham. I'm looking for somebody to be married and yoked with my son, who's not just a wife, but a woman of the promise. So the servant has a concern, right? Like this is great. The servant's like, okay, well, just pause for a moment. Suppose the woman is not willing to follow me back to this land. Should I take your son back to the land where you came from? So it's a legitimate concern. Like I go, and let's just say I can do a great sales job. Like Isaac, he's a great guy. I mean, you don't know him, but let me tell you all about him. And let's say he can do this great sales job, and she says, yes, and then he's like, all right, let's go. And like, no, he needs to come here. Should I go ahead and bring him there? And Abraham is like, oh, no, you shall not do that. There's clarity here. Then Abraham said, be aware that you do not, whatever you do not take my son back there. Why? Because of the Abrahamic covenant. This is the land. This is the land. And God is able to do whatever he wants to do. God can rescue, he can restore. And if nobody will come from this area, that's fine. Somehow God is going to use and be at work and provide a nation. But whatever you do, don't take him out of the promised land. Don't do that. The Lord God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, who spoke to me and who swore to me, to your descendants I will give this land, he will send his angel ahead of you, and you will take a wife for my son from there. Listen to that man of faith. He will. Listen, you're asking a good question, servant, that I don't know your name, but you've been faithful. Thank you for clarifying. Don't take my son back there, but don't you worry. Because the God who's been faithful in this land, that you've seen how he's been faithful to me, he's going to send his angel ahead of you, and he's going to go ahead, and he's going to make things successful. But then this is even greater, I think. He gives him freedom. Servant, I want you to know this. If the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free of this oath. Whatever you do, though, do not take my son back there. Now, I hope that in this, you can sit there and see, like, this is actually pretty incredible. Like, there is a heavy call of what he's supposed to do. He's given very specific directions, and the servant should be like, yes, I'm going to do all these things no matter what, because I have to please, no matter what I have to please. And then he says, hey, it's okay if you fail. The outcome's not for you to determine. You're just supposed to be faithful. Take a step. That's what I'm asking you to do. He's given freedom to fail in his mission. Because that's what life is like, living underneath, directed by promise and not works. That we have freedom to fail and know that we're not going to be cast out of his kingdom. The servant knows, hey, if I go and I put myself in the right position, and God just for whatever reason doesn't work things the way that the old man thinks, that I'm still going to be accepted. I'm still going to be entrusted and valued in his family. It's not dependent upon my performance. I have freedom to fail. This is really incredible to me. And so you see, here's what's getting ready to happen. You got Abraham, Sarah has since passed. And you got Isaac, who's really, man, he's looking like, oh, hello. And he's waiting for, like, who's this woman going to be? The servant is charged with the responsibility to go find it. This This unnamed servant is invited to go, free to fail. Man, and that freedom to fail is what living in faith looks like. He's not living in worry. He's going and saying, I'm going to be faithful with what's in front of me. It's a faithful step in light of God's promises. It's not creating fret. It's just a step. So with that background, a few minutes at your tables, go ahead and talk about these 3 questions. I'll be right back in about 10 minutes. All right. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you are people who love to learn or not growing up. I mean, those narratives that you write about yourself or others write about you from young ages, they just really stick with you, right? Like, I really do enjoy learning, but growing up, I always felt like I just wasn't that bright. And so that I was like, oh, I can't say that I enjoy learning. I remember in college taking corp finance, and there was a problem. I'm like, I just don't know how to do this. I had a test the next day, and I'm up late working. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I'm working on it. Finally, like, I'm done with this. And so I went to bed because I figured it'd be better to miss one question on the test, at least be rested so I get the other ones right, than just to stay up all night trying to figure out this one thing. So I go to sleep, and at 4 a.m, I wake up. I'm like, that's how you do it. Got up. I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, learning is great. And I love that class because I would constantly be in the class. I'm like, okay, I thought I understood, and all of a sudden it was just this fog. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, wait. And you could just feel in your brain like learning unfold. I'm like, this is great. I like to learn. But I really, really like to learn when I was younger in elementary school. Like, those were the days, right? And I don't know if you ever had to do these dot puzzles, like connect the dots, like just follow the numbers. You're learning your numbers, and it makes an image. So if you're not familiar with them, like, they look like this. Like, your teacher would hand you something with this happy face and these numbers. Like, I wonder what it could be, right? Like these. This is the type of learning that I really like. And they have it for adults too, just so you know. Like, they're far more complex. You're like, I don't know what this is, and then you start like making your marks. And so as a kid, I filled it in so you could see what it is. The sunshine, But my teacher never, when we had these things, never just said, hey, draw a puppy on a skateboard. Never said, like, hey, just go do that. You're like, well, I can't do that. But they would hand you these pieces of paper with these dot-to-dot drawings, and you would sit there like, hey, what I can do is I can be faithful in going from 1 to 2. And I can be faithful from going 2 to 3. And I can find where and I can be faithful there. And at the end, I have a puppy on a skateboard. But my job wasn't to draw the puppy in the skateboard. It was just to be faithful with what was in front of me. And that's exactly what this guy is going to do. This unnamed servant is incredible. And this section is super short. You're like, prove it, Ty. Like, get ready. It's super short. But it's super powerful, right? Like, let's just look. In Genesis chapter 24, 10 and 11. So the servant has just been told, like, hey, you've got the freedom to fail, but this is your mission. You're going to this land, right? You're going to my hometown. You're going there. You're going to find a wife for my son, and you're going to go ahead and bring her back. And if she says, no, that's okay. So you have the freedom to fail, but you know what's expected of you. Don't take my son with you. He's like, okay. And so right away, he's like, okay, I know here's start point 1. Get out of here and go to there. And that's exactly what he does, right? You're going to see him be faithful with things that he has control over, but he's going to lead fulfillment to the Lord. I wish I would live my life that way. Right? He's not trying to control something that was never his to control. He's being faithful with a step. Then the servant took 10 camels from the camels of his master and went out with a variety of good things of his master's in his hand. So right away, like he's not even pulling his own resources together for this. He's like, this is the master's, like, this is what the master's wanting to do. The master has all these resources. The master's the one who's given me everything that I need to do the master's work. I'm just called to be faithful with this because I'm just using the master's stuff. Because he wants to give evidence of the goodness of the master, not his resources. And so he gathers what is given, what's provided, and takes those resources, and out he goes. And he goes to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. You're like, why is that underlined? Because if you were an astute reader, you would have already known, if you were to turn back a page, depending on your Bible, back to chapter 22, you would have found in verse 22, verse 20, that for some reason there's this random thing that Abraham hears that back in his country, his hometown, his family is growing. Said, hey, Milcah also bore children to your brother Nahor. So he's going to this area to Nahor where he knows there's already some children who are there, and not little children, but coming up. He knows that there's potential there. He's going to hang out in the right place. And he gets there, and he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water when it was evening. This is the time when women go out to draw the water. He's got the right things, he's in the right place, and he's there at the right time. Sun's going down, watering hole. This is where the ladies go. This is it. And he's just like, all right. My job was to be here at this city. And where should I be? Like, where do the women come out to? To the well. And when do the women who come who have good reputations? They come in the cool evening. And he's like, all right, I will position myself. It's not my job to find the right one. It's my job to simply be faithful in a small step. And so I'll put myself using the right things, the right place at the right time. Truly incredible. And I think about that even just like today. Like, we know our mission is to image God, and we know that as followers of Christ, the Great Commission comes to us as well, right? To make disciples of all nations. Like that's why the church is here. The church is an organization that's not just a building. It's not like just Grace Bible Church. It's like the church as a whole has marching orders to go and make disciples of all nations. All nations, it means all nations. It means nations far, but it also means nations here. It means your coworkers. It means the people at the gym around you. It's like, okay, so that's my marching order. And you're saying like, well, how do I control all that? Well, you can't control the outcome, but are you faithful? Am I faithful in that making a line from 1 to 2, 2 to 3? Do I know how to share my story? Do I know how to share the gospel? Like, just real simple things. Am I curious about other people's story? Am I even aware there's other people around me? Right place, am I doing right things, right place, right time? Am I making a faithful step with the mission that's been given to me? And the cool part is you can have the best story down. Like, I got my gospel story down. I can tell it to you in 3 minutes flat, and then I can also give you a 30-minute thing. And I can tell you the 3 circles, the basics of the Gospels, like at night, backwards, blindfolded, without lights. Like, I can do it. I know it all. And I can ask people intentional questions. I've got it. And you can have all those things, and the reality is great for you, but that will not guarantee that somebody responds to the Lord because, right, that's his work. The picture is his. The line is ours. Are we faithful with our mark, with our line, and not trying to control the picture? Do we count that as just joy of like, I got to share, I got to invite, I got to learn, and because of that, that's what I'm celebrating? Or do we go like, oh man, I've shared my story 2 times in the last 5 years, and nobody's responded to Christ, so I must be horrible, because you're thinking only of the picture and not looking to be faithful with the line. I love those dot-to-dot puzzles. And so with this unnamed servant. Faithful steps, not famous names, is what fuels God's work. He owns what he can control, and that's things, places, and time. But not only that, he has the right posture. And this unnamed servant, he says, Lord God of my master Abraham. Just so there's no confusion, this is who I'm calling out to. The God who has made the promises to Abraham. Yahweh. That's who I'm calling out to. And would you please grant me success today and show kindness? This word here is hesed. It's an incredible word. Loyal love, loving kindness. This God, you made a promise and you're going to stick with that promise through thick and thin. Like, would you show your hesed to my master? Would you show your loyal love to my master? You made a promise that he's going to have descendants, so would you show yourself faithful? Would you show your loyal love to my master by providing a wife? Man, this is an incredible posture, right? He's like, God, this is up to you. My heart posture is here, and the only thing that's going to bring what we deem as success is if you move. And when I ask you to move, all I'm asking you to do is would you move in a way that is consistent with your character? You have been faithful. You gave him a son. You gave him blessings in the land. You've been faithful in the past. I'm just asking that you would be consistent with your character. Man, I've made the line. I've controlled what I can control. Now the picture is yours. In college, I really did. I changed my prayers. It used to be like, dear Lord, guide my pen or pencil, to the right answer, or help me write things out perfectly. Give me an A on this test. And then they changed. My prayers just as Christ began to captivate my heart, they started saying, Lord, would you just make this test, this exam, an accurate reflection of what I know? Because you're a God who's just. And I want this test to be just. I want it to be an accurate representation, that I would understand the question being asked, that the question would be clear, and that I would answer the thing that's being asked, so that whether it's an A, whether it's a D, whether it's something in between or something lower, would it represent accurately what I know? That's a prayer in alignment with who he is, not what I want, unless what I want is who he is. So here he is, this incredible thing. He's got the right posture. I've owned what I can own, but the rest is up to you. And then I think this is really neat. It could be easy for him just to sit back and be passive, but you see he's the right person. He continues his prayer. He's like, behold, I'm standing in the spring, and the daughters of the men of the city, they're coming out to draw water. Like, I've put myself in the right place. I've been faithful. I've taken these faithful steps, right? And now I pray that whatever young woman I will run up to and say, please let down your jar so that I may drink. And the one who answers, drink, and I will water your camels also. Would that be the one you've appointed for your servant Isaac? And by this I will know you have shown hesed to my master. He's the right person. He's like, hey, I trust you, but I know my job is not done. I'm willing to walk up to somebody and say, would you give me something to drink? I'm still going to be active in this. I'm not just sitting back and like, okay, I did my 3 things. I've learned my story. I know how to share my testimony. I know the right questions to ask to bring curiosity. But I'm just going to step back, and if somebody asks me, like, no. He's still going, I'll go initiate. I'm still going to take that thing. And so he's willing to do this. He's just saying, I'm the right person, but he's also looking for the right person. Somebody's going to show kindness and beyond. He's like, man, I've seen that in Sarah. He's looking for Isaac, Sarah, so all right. And essentially saying, hey, here's the code. That way I'll know this is the one that you have. Man, the unnamed servant knew exactly what living in light of God's promises looked like, right? It was a faithful steps were his, but fulfillment of the promise was God's. And I don't know, do you know that? Do I know that? Are we too busy trying to control the whole picture? We've forgotten the line. Or are we taking just faithful steps? It seems so small to be like, I'm just making a line from 1 to 2. It seems like that's just useless. Are we being faithful in those small things and just leaving the results to the Lord? This guy, he's the one like, nope, the picture is God's responsibility. The line is mine. I'm going to stay in my lane. He can control what he wants to control. So now that we've got that section too, told you it was the fastest one you've ever seen. Take the next 10 minutes at your table. Dialogue about a few of these things. All right, as stepping into this, the final place here and just kind of leaping back. Again, it's a new place for me to be the older person in the room. I'm always used to being the younger one in the room. And so when I was the younger one in the room in the UK on church staff there, we had an interim pastor come in who was elderly. He and his wife were coming in for a couple months. And so one of the requests they had is they wanted to do their email from home. And so they wanted a computer at home, and they didn't want to bring one over. So we had a computer at the office. I went over, I set it up for him, everything, showed him how to use it. And about a week later, the phone rings, and our secretary says, hey, the pastor's wife's on the phone, and she's really mad because the computer's not working. And I'm like, man, okay. And so right away, I'm thinking, this is going to take forever. Like, they live 45 minutes. If there's no traffic, it's got a 45-minute drive to where they're living, and then that's 45 minutes back, and it's going to be at least 45 minutes just to say hi, and another probably 3 minutes maybe to fix the problem. I don't know. But, like, my day is basically gone with this. And so I have my negative attitude going on as I answer the phone, like, hey, what's going on? Thinking like, there's just no way any of this is going to work. So they just like, I can't believe like the computer you gave me was just bad. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't buy the computer. I just set it up and like, tell me what's going on. Like, there's just no power. So I'm like, well, is it, this sounds crazy, but like, is it plugged in? Let's just start with like did the plug get tripped? And like, no, oh, hang on. No, it's not plugged in. It just doesn't work. And so I'm like, all right, let's see here. Let me ask you this question. When you look at the front of it, the tower thing, what's the tower thing? I'm like, okay, not the screen on top of your desk, but on the floor, there's a big gray thing facing you. There's a little jewel. It looks like a jewel on the front of it. Is it glowing? No, there's no power. It's not glowing. So I said, you know what? They're just sneaky. These computer manufacturers try to hide these things. Like, just try this. That jewel is actually a button. It's the power button. Go ahead and push that and see if something happens. Then silence. And it was like, oh, well, thank you very much. Whole attitude changed, and they hung up. I'm like, I can't believe that worked. I mean, out of all the things in IT, when you call, like, none of it works, I'm like, I can't believe it was that simple, and that I could lead her through just to push the power on button, and we were good to go. And it just happened so quick and so fast, and that's what's going to actually happen for this guy. As he owns just his marks, he's going to see some incredible things unfold. God's faithfulness is going to go just quick. So here we go. In chapter 24, verse 15, there's a surprising possibility, and it came about before he had finished speaking. He was just praying to God, like your hesed, let it flow out on Abraham, be faithful to him. Would it be the one that I run up and ask a drink for? Like, here's our code. And she says, great drink, but let me take care of your camels. Like, that way, that's the code. I'll know, like, the code. And so, and it came about before he had finished speaking, that behold, Rebekah, who was born of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out with her jar on her shoulder. Now, just pause for a moment here. Again, sometimes we forget this when we're reading through Scripture. You know something right now as the reader that the servant doesn't know, right? That should build some excitement. You and I know, reading this, we know this is Rebekah, and we know she's a close relative. We know that she fits the bill. He does not know this, right? We just assume he automatically knows. He doesn't know this. He's just, hey, there's a good-looking girl. She's coming out in the middle of me talking, right? But we have that behind-the-scenes thing. And so then, all of a sudden, you're going to see faithfulness just explode, and explodes quickly. Let me read and join with me here, 16 through 25. And the young woman was very beautiful and a virgin. No man had relations with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, please let me drink a little water from your jar. And she said, drink, my lord. And then she quickly lowered her jar and her hand to give him a drink. Now, when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will also draw water for your camels until they have finished drinking. Can you just imagine this guy like, I'm sorry, what? Hello. Like, you could just see, like, wait, what is happening here? So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran back to the well to draw, and she drew for all of his camels. And meanwhile, the man was taking a close look at her in silence, creepy, to find out whether the Lord had made his journey successful or not. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took the gold ring, weighing a half shekel, and 2 bracelets for her wrist, and weighing in 10 shekels in gold. And he said, whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room for us to stay overnight at your father's house? And she said, I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor. And again she said to him, we have plenty of both straw and feed and room to stay overnight. I mean, faithfulness times 2 on display. First off, I want you to not miss the fact, you see the servant's faithfulness here, right? He just prays, he sees there's a potential. And like, he didn't sit there and say, well, if she shows up soaking wet and the ground around her is dry today, and tomorrow if the ground is soaking wet and she is dry, then I know that's the one I'm supposed to approach. Like, he doesn't ask for that. No, he sits there and he says, okay, I put myself in the right position at the right time with the right things, with the right heart posture, and I'm not going to sit and be passive. Just because I'm trusting his promises does not mean that I'm passive. And so he walks up to her. You see him, runs up to her. He's being quick about that. He's engaged, even though he knows the picture belongs to God. He asks for the water. He hears the code, but he doesn't just say, okay, well, that was it. She said she's going to do it. Yay! Like, let's go. He says, no, she says it, but she's going to do it. And he just watches. He's confirming that what she has said matches the behavior. You see his faithfulness all the way through. Because Abraham is looking for a Sarah for his Isaac, right? Not just a wife, but a woman of the promise. And so he's looking for that. You ask what family, but then you also see God's incredible faithfulness, his hesed on display. This very beautiful woman, both inside and out. He didn't have to do that, he just did. Mind you, the servant, he was looking for the beauty on the inside. That's what mattered the absolute most. She offers just this overwhelming generosity to water the camels. A camel could drink, if it was on empty, basically 25 gallons of water each camel in about 10 minutes. So that's 10 camels times 25 is 250 gallons of water to move. This was not just like, bloop, there you go. This was a very involved thing, and he's silently watching like, wow, she's started and she's finishing this job with, wow, that's incredible. God, you're so faithful. And then, hey, do you have a place to stay? Absolutely. We've got plenty of feed, plenty of room. Come on. You see the faithfulness both of the servant taking a faithful step. You see God being faithful. And you see this whole scene, it just moves fast, running quickly. Like it's just, people are just moving so fast. And sometimes we can get really discouraged in this. We're like, well, look what he did. Look, like I hopped on the dating app and it didn't happen within 30 seconds. I didn't match the one, right? And so we're all discouraged. But God's promises, when they unfold quickly. But sometimes it's slow to begin. Because remember, by this time, roughly speaking, Abraham had the promise that he would be in the land and with his descendants, plural, coming out there for 60 to 70 years. Isaac at this time is probably somewhere about 37 to 40 years old. Okay, so there's been a long waiting time that Abraham has been patient. And then all of a sudden, when the promise begins to unfold, it just moves quickly. And you see a God who does that, like waiting for Messiah, waiting for Messiah, waiting for Messiah. And when he shows up on the scene, finally, after thousands of years, right, 3 years of power-packed, fast-paced ministry. Quick, 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 quick. You just see, sometimes it seems slow for it to start, but once he starts, fast things unfold very quickly. And that's what's happening here. And that might be, I don't know where you are right now. I really don't know if you're in a season that like it feels like God is not doing anything in my life at all. He hasn't done anything for a really long time. I mean, I don't know. Abraham was in that place, and what did he do? He was called to faithfulness, just to be faithful in what you own. Don't worry about the picture, just faithful with your mark. And when God begins to move, he moves quickly. Does that mean tomorrow he's going to move quickly? I don't know. I just know that he's calling for a faithful step from me today and from you today as well. But then, this is the thing not to miss. It's the faithfulness that fuels his praise. Right after this, then the man bowed low and worshiped the Lord. Like his first response is like, oh my goodness, she said the code. She gave me the drink. She said the code. She honored the code. This is incredible. And you've got extra room? Yeah, we got extra room. And he just falls down and prays. And like, this is incredible. God, you are faithful. Mind you, she hasn't agreed yet to go back to the land, right? She hasn't said yes to anything. But in the middle, as he sees God's faithfulness unfolds and it moves him to worship, that's incredible. You know, I think sometimes worship's not about a response to when we win, when we get our own way. That worship maybe is supposed to be about a response to seeing God's faithfulness in our lives. And for me, so many times I'm so self-focused that I just think, his movement has to be my win. It has to be my comfort. Because of that, I get robbed all the time of moments of worship. You see in this man, this unnamed servant who we don't know who he is, Walt. We don't know who he is. But you see his praise, his worship is moved by God's faithfulness and not a perceived win towards himself. And then the story gets better. How could it get better? And from 33 to 51, I'm not going to read all these things for you. So he comes back to her place, and Laban, he comes out and says, all right, we got places for you. Here's some food. And he's like, hey, I'm not eating. None of the people with me, we're not eating. I don't care. You're showing your hospitality. You're here. I will not eat until I've stated my business. And they're like, all right, state your business. And so he tells them, he's faithful to go back and say, this is how it started. This is my mission. This is what I was supposed to do. This is my master. You know who he is. You've heard about him. Look at all the faithfulness. I look at the things that I've given to her. This is evidence that he is really blessed, that God is faithful to him, and he's in this foreign land. He's got a son. I'm not lying here. And I prayed to the Lord. And as I prayed to the Lord, then Rebecca came out, and I didn't know who she was. I just ran up to her, and she said, all right, here's some water, and I'll get your camels taken care of too. And I was like, that's the code. I didn't even know. And then I'm sitting there, and she did this whole thing, and I'm amazed because she's a close relative. And like, this is God's provision. It's got to be God's provision. We can't eat because it's such an exciting story. Mind you, he's back home in a land that Yahweh is not the ruling God there. Right? And he's like, but let me just tell you what Yahweh has done and what I can see him doing. And the response, Laban says that, well, the matter has come from the Lord, so we cannot speak to you bad or good, but here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go and let her be the wife to your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. Before you get mad, like, how come she doesn't have a say in this? She's going to have a say in a moment, but again, ancient Near East was just a different thing. You needed this permission, this release. She's like, how faithful. Not only the right person, but they're willing to send her. And so now you begin to fill these things in, no more question mark. Rebecca is going to be the bride. But then, one last small, short thing here. If you continue the story, you're going to see that faithfulness rejects compromise. He's so excited, they eat, they go to bed, they wake up the next morning, and the servant's like, let's go. It's time to go. And Laban's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And her mother's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let the young woman stay here with us for just a few days. Let's say 10. And then after that, she can go. Now, mind you, that's totally reasonable, right? The day before, Rebecca was just going to do what she would normally do. It's just an ordinary day, going to get water. She didn't expect her whole life to change in that moment. She's just getting some water. You need a drink? Here's a drink. I'll take care of your camels too. Ordinary routines, and then comes home like, hey, it's time to go to a foreign land away from everybody that you've ever known. Let's go. So it would be reasonable for them to go like, can we just have some time just to celebrate with our daughter before we send her? Can we just have some space here? That would be reasonable. And yet, the servant says, no. Don't delay me. The Lord has prospered my way. Send me away so that I may go to my master. And so they finally say, well, fine, we'll ask her. And she comes out and she says, I'll go. I'll go. I'll leave the land of every place that's comfortable for me, and I'll go to this promised land as an act of faith, because this Yahweh you speak of will now be my God. I will follow and I will trust. I'll go. Remember the whole thing. Find a wife for Isaac is not just about a wife, but somebody who's faithful to the promise to build a dynasty. God provided that. Incredible. Totally incredible. And it's amazing because the two times that the servant praises, you see it twice. He gets the good news from Laban. He's like, yes! They still hadn't left yet. He just sees movements of God's faithfulness, and in response, he has to worship. Always driven, moments of faithfulness unfolding. It's probably something he actually saw from Abraham's life. Like if now you don't have to be bored. If you're interested, go back and read Abraham's life and look to see how many times that he builds an altar, how many times that he praises. Just go and look and see what's surrounding those moments. There's movements of God. in his life. Not the full thing, but he'll have encounters with the Lord, and there'll be like a moment of faithfulness from the Lord, and he's like, I have to build. This is an altar. We will worship you here. Because I see your faithfulness being poured out. It's not the overall picture isn't complete. I just see you being faithful, and so I need to respond in worship. His servant who knew him for a long time, in charge of all of his household, had the behind-the-scenes look. It's like, I'm doing the same thing. Every time that I see the faithfulness of God revealed, I respond in worship. It's pretty amazing when you think about this. This unnamed servant given a clear message of what to go do. He's given the freedom to fail. He could have gone and been like, well, I showed up, I made it here. I'm not going to go ask. It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing to go like, hey, you can have some water? Like, I don't want to look weak. You know, why would I do that? He could have said, I have the freedom to fail. I don't need to do anything. And he didn't need to do anything. And it was like that freedom in God's promise and the faith in that just moved him just to make a mark from 4 to 5. The picture was God's to go ahead and do with what he wanted. And every time that he saw a movement of God's faithfulness, he responded in worship. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, I become so me-focused. And I begin to think that only when things are comfortable and good for me, that's when God's being faithful. And the reality is, God's faithfulness holds me every single day, whether I'm in the worst season of my life or the greatest season of my life. God's faithfulness holds. His hesed holds always. And there is always reason for us to worship in every season of our life, because worship was never about you or me. It's all about him. We are called to faithfully take steps, leave the picture to him, and all along the way, praise him for his continued faithfulness. So to take the next 10 minutes-ish and talk about these questions, and we'll wrap everything up. All right, landing the plane here pretty quick. We saw the big idea here that faithful steps, not the famous names, fuel God's work, both in and through us. The longest chapter in Genesis, all about this faithful, unnamed servant who took these faithful steps, just worried about his marks, and left the whole picture to God. Really a beautiful, beautiful picture. How do we apply it? Man, what do we do with this? Well, you're called to be a Walt. I'm called to be a Walt. We're all called to be a Walt. But I encourage you, read Genesis 24 on your own. I mean, there's a lot more in there than what we've talked about, but go ahead and spend some time and just read it for yourself. And as you do, I just reflect on like, man, God, your faithfulness is great. Man, this is awesome to see what you're doing through somebody who is, we don't even know their name. You know, even though he's unnamed, it doesn't mean that he's unimportant or unwanted in God's kingdom. And there may be times that you feel like nobody knows your name, nobody's aware of all the things that you're doing, the ways that you're serving. It doesn't mean that you're unimportant or unwanted in God's kingdom. But I'd ask also and encourage you to ask God to reveal just one area of compromise in your life. If you have none, great, awesome, woohoo, move forward. But maybe there's just one area of compromise where we trust in our effort over God's promises. Yeah, that's the difference between a religion and a relationship with Christ. And we're all about a relationship with Christ here, because his work is what saves you. It's his work that holds you. It's his work and alone that brings you back into a right relationship with God. Religion says it's your effort. You have the freedom to fail because of God's promise. And that's a beautiful thing. And I hope you know that freedom. But maybe you've been trusting more like I have to control everything. Maybe you're just living in spiritual delay. Like I'll get serious about my faith tomorrow. You know, it's okay today to go like, hey, I can make one mark. I can go from 1 to 2 on my line. I can spend some time in God's word.